All right, welcome everybody. We are obviously just getting started.
Yeah.
So awesome to see everyone popping in and joining us today. We'll give it like a minute or so for everyone else to start popping in too, because it is on
Oh my God.
phone
Hey
right
Jay,
now.
what's up? And I see I see a few faces I recognize. That's great. There's a lot of people joining us from all over the planet. Almost a dozen countries.
Yeah, let us know where you're joining from in the chat. Let us know where you are. Where you're from.
There's some people that are joining us at 3 a.m. in the morning their time, so
Mary Ann says she can't hear for some reason.
Well, there you go, Atlanta. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hey.
Keep yourself unmuted because it'll
Perfect.
It'll be cool. All right, guys. Let's see where we got. Las Vegas, Los
Tampa,
Angeles, Bay Area,
Denmark.
Denmark. Very nice.
Well,
Tampa,
wide.
Florida. It's hot in Tampa, Florida. Bit humid today.
Destiny, I'm in your town right now, by the way. In Vegas. You going to the big fight tonight? No. I'm gonna be at the other thing.
Very
That's
nice.
Chesney Claire. She's an awesome artist, and Ian Abel, he's another awesome artist. Man, we got a
yes,
lot.
I've known Ian for years. He moved to Nashville and he's kicking ass. That's great.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, let's get started. It is 3:01. So welcome everybody. This is just going to be a nice casual hang today. We're going to go through some questions. We're going to hit on some questions, and then we'll open it up to questions that you all have as well. We're going to keep everyone muted though, so that we don't get too many interruptions as we go through this. But go ahead, Brent.
Do you want to intro the? Yes. Okay.
100%. I'm actually going to pass it around and hand it off to everyone to give a little introduction of themselves. So Atlanta, let's start with you. Give a quick introduction of your journey into the music industry.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, hit it off. Okay, so yeah, for those who I haven't met yet, I am Atlanta. It's my real name, but I am British, which is a bit jarring, I know. I have worked in the industry for over 10 years at this point. Started out when I was a little child, from meeting Florence Machine and working with her team. I've worked in record labels and marketing at Columbia Records, Island Records, and I've worked in music management, working across artists such as Becky Hill. She's won a couple Brit Awards here in the UK, and another artist, Ella Henderson, who is multi-platinum #1 selling artist. I have since left. I run my own management company, Landed Management, and I also run Music Industry Mentor, which is a coaching platform worldwide for independent artists wishing to level up in the career, and getting some help from artist managers themselves. So I pulled together my own network. We run a bunch of masterclasses. We do panels like this. We bring in opportunities, resources, and it's the best. It's my favorite thing in the world. So I'm happy to be here. Happy to chat all things music with you guys.
Awesome. Welcome. Yeah, and you have a fantastic TikTok and Instagram channel. So I encourage
Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, power of TikTok is real. And I spend most days talking about TikTok, but it is only one slice of the pie, as we all know. But TikTok is my main bag.
Right on. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I'd love to hear more about it. Dylan, over to you, my friend.
Dylan,
yeah, one sec. I get you.
Jail.
I get you. Don't mute yourselves, because then you can't unmute yourself. So let me get you, Dylan. One sec. There you go, buddy.
Okay, I'm unmuted, right? Can everybody hear me?
You're good.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to do the jazz hands, I think. All right, yeah, I'm Dylan Berry. So I'm in the music business, been in the music business my whole life, composer, started a company called Smash House. It helps a lot of other composers connect with jobs, and we work with large media companies, do a lot of talk show type stuff. I'm currently in Vegas because I'm hosting the Crawford Spence after party with Nick Cannon out here. So I'm pretty excited about that. So this is not my house. This is a hotel room. And yes, it's not the Delano. They put me up in the home to suite. So, I've really made it. It's pretty freaking awesome. Anyway, Yeah, so I just do a lot of, I've got a consulting firm, so I consult with a lot of different companies trying to go from overseas into America, mostly to penetrate into Hollywood. Um, I'm Brent Harvey's biggest fan, and that's it. That's all I've got.
Right on. Awesome. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming, man.
Thank you.
Nomad, passing it over to you, buddy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. I know some of you, and I know the ones that I know are super talented, and I'm sure the ones I don't know are just as talented. So it's really great to have a lot of music people here. Love it. And I'm a huge fan of everybody hosting. So Brent, Michael Elsner, Dylan, and our newest friend, Atlanta. But Michael and I go way back. Brent and I go way back. Dylan and I go way back. So, I mean, you're in good company. And that funnels in nicely to my introduction, because what I realized, I've been in this game for over 30 years. I started as a guitar player, then morphed into a producer, composer, session guy. What I realized is the relationships that you cultivate usually end up lasting as long as you do the right things. And sometimes when you don't do the right things, they still work out, because age has a way of humbling us all. But I've played with everybody from Stevie Wonder to Carrie Underwood to, I was the music director for Babyface for 12 years, Justin Bieber. I mean, I've played with a bunch of people. I have a lot of film and TV credits. But at the end of the day, it's not about any of the credits. It's about living a good life and enjoying your time with friends and family, the ones you love, and being grateful to do music for a living. I mean, honestly, no bull. I'm not trying to be cheesy, but I'm super grateful because I've had one quote unquote day job, and that was working at a bagel shop. And I'm a New Yorker, so I love bagels. But anyway, that's it.
That's awesome. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Elsner, and songwriter, guitar player. I've known, like Nomad said, I've known Nomad and Dylan for a very long time. I've known Brent for a very long time. I think Nomad, you and I connected in 2004, I believe, 2004, 2005. Yeah. Dylan, I think you and I connected probably around 2008. And Brent, I think you and I were right around the same time as well. And Atlanta and I met earlier this year. So we are new friends. But as you said, a lot of the music industry is, it's all about networking and building that, your connections. But my path in the industry took a lot of different zigzaggy turns, and I fell into the TV and film world, where I first started playing on a couple of shows for composers, and then I learned what licensing was, and I started licensing my own songs, and now I've got at last count over 2,500 placements of my songs. But that last count was 2 years ago, so it's a lot more. But that's basically been my journey, is really diving into licensing, which I know everyone here knows a lot about as well, and especially Dylan. Dylan has owned a library, and that's how we connected initially back in the day. So let's dive into a particular topic that it comes up a lot in my circles, especially teaching online and whatnot. It's, of course, the advent of AI and what AI is going to do in the music industry for us. So my question to you guys is, how do you see AI impacting the landscape and the opportunities and the challenges that musicians are going to have as a result of AI technology, especially as it continues to evolve? And I'm going to throw this one to Dylan first.
Well, I think it's how you look at it, right? In one way, it'll make a lot of things more efficient, and it'll make a lot of the barriers to making music less, because people that don't know how to necessarily engineer or master or do these things as well can actually have a nice sounding production, which I think is part of the biggest problem in production, is having it be competitive quality. And then you can focus, if that's easy, then you can focus on the creativity part. And that's where you really shine. For instance, my son is 16, or just turned 17, and he's just on BandLab all day long. Back in the day, he would have had to sit with a producer to crank out 3 songs in a year and break the bank. And now he's doing 3 songs a night because the tracks are right there. So I don't know if that's good or bad. On the flip side, I think it's going to hurt a lot of people that are niche workers, that are just a mastering engineer or just a mixer. They're going to have to scramble a bit. so that'll disrupt the workforce. I'm both horrified by AI and also very encouraged, because I think it's about what's in your mind and what's in your heart and how you get that, and you harness those bots to get what you want out of them, instead of it just being like, oh God, everybody can make music as good as me. They can't, because they're not you, they're going to say something differently and harness the bots in a different way. So with that, I find that kind of interesting. I will say one other thing, coming from the music licensing place and having people send us music all the time. I'm constantly approached by these companies making AI music to replace humans. And I constantly tell them to fuck off. Excuse me, but I do. And excuse my language, Brent. I hope the FCC is not going to get us on this one. But it's all of our responsibility to not encourage that sort of behavior, and to educate the industry and pressure the industry to not accept that music to replace humans, right? It's going to happen. But, in one way you can't fight the incoming tide, but what you definitely can do is shame people that are letting that tide enter their castle. And shame goes a long way when it comes to art, and culture. Okay, well, you can do that, but you're going to starve all of us out. You want to do that? You want to talk to my kids about why they can't go to summer camp? Go ahead, right? So I think AI's got a lot of good stuff, and I think we shouldn't hate on it. It's here, it's not going away, and it's going to change a lot of things. Might as well harness it and stop being, holding on to the way it used to be. That's my opinion.
Okay. Atlanta, your thoughts?
Yeah, I know I kind of echo exactly what Dylan's saying. I initially I find it bizarre. I can't really wrap my head around it, but also I think it opens up a world of opportunity at the same time if it's used right. It's one of those where kind of almost feels like every time there's like a huge kind of disruptor, especially in like the tech space, everyone's kind of immediate thoughts are like, oh, absolutely not. Like, this is going to ruin the music industry. And we're always going to be up against certain changes in the industry where we're like, fuck's sake, this is going to ruin the industry. But then I think there's always ways to get around it creatively where we can still progress authentically as musicians. And I think as long as we maintain that, again, what Dylan's saying here, like as long as we maintain that and we don't lean into AI so much where kind of everyone is out of a job. And I kind of also feel like it's not going to, because the way I hear it, I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but I think when I hear AI generated vocals, to me, I can tell it's an AI generated vocal, even though it's super close to the mark, but I can still tell. And for me personally, I love the real thing. And you just can't replicate that. You just cannot replicate real human music, in my opinion, anyway. The thing that I am interested in is how it's going to be policed and regulated properly. Like, how do you even do that on the internet? I know obviously like the majors are going to do it. They're going to set certain rules with streaming, but it's one of those like you're kind of leaving it to the Wild West. And I think that's going to become a challenge with people just totally pulling, like larger major recording artist vocals and just pulling it onto whoever's tracks and throwing it out there and streaming. We already see people do that, kind of jumping on it. I see this a lot as well, where people will upload songs to Spotify and they will try and tag it on to kind of well-established artist pages just so their music lands on the page, and then it's a nightmare to pull it off. And so I kind of feel like, yeah, you're leaving it open to what is made out of it. And I think it, like in the past, wherever there's new technology, incredible things come of it. And then I think there's going to be a whole load of stuff that is going to be quite ugly to also come of it. That I'm interested to see. But personally, I love AI in certain aspects. Big fan of ChatGPT, for example. But when it comes to like the actual creativity of creating music, I don't know. However, I do think that is going to lend itself to a bit of like, it's going to give people a bit more accessibility to creating music. Whereas before, I think especially for producers, you would have to spend hours and so much time, so much of your money to learn a production skill. Whereas now I think it's going to, like, anyone could jump on an AI and almost essentially be a producer. So again, I think there's good and bad to come out of it. It still feels so early for it as well. and it's so fast moving. I don't know what you think about that, but I think accessibility wise, good and bad, because it's going to mean anyone could essentially become a producer, and they may not necessarily have learned the skills to become a producer as well, which I think is going to be interesting.
Nomad.
I agree with everything that both Dylan and Atlanta said. Here's the thing. I started playing guitar when I was 12. I saw Eddie Van Halen on MTV back when MTV was music television and they played music videos. Well, look where MTV is now. They evolved, right? Everything evolves. It all changes. My point is, I had a very steep learning curve. I sucked at first. It took me a long time to get really good at guitar. And then it took me a long time to really, finish those skills out necessarily to be a producer and a composer and all that thing. So the learning aspect is what I think is development. It's what we call development. Think about Motown. Barry Gordy developed those artists. If they just came out with the first song they wrote on their own and recorded it, however, there wouldn't have been hits like there were, because he put a lot of time, money, resources, and energy into developing these artists as they were learning. So if you're talking about AI taking the learning out of music, well, then first of all, it's not going to be deep. It's going to be very shallow, because you're going to have a lot of amateurs making music who don't understand the intricacies and the nuances of how to make music from the soul. Okay. But then what's going to happen, it's literally going to all start to sound the same, because AI can only pull obviously they can pull trillions of bits of information per second, like we can't, right? However, what they don't have is this, and I saw some people echo that. They don't have a beating heart, a soul, a spirit. So I do believe that the human spirit still is, I don't want to say win or lose, but it's still going to be the primary. Now, think about, so that's the pro versus amateur, right? Think about when MIDI came along, musical instruments, digital interface. Everybody's like, oh, now we don't need musicians because MIDI, now you just program the part, you sequence it, and why do we need a band? Okay, well, there's still bands. The drum machine, the Roger Lynn drum machine came out. Oh no, I'm a drummer and I'm out of work. Like Dylan said, if you're just a special niche, if you're only a drummer, well then how about this? Learn how to play your regular drums, but also buy a friggin' drum machine and learn how to program it. So now when somebody calls you, you say, hey, I can do both acoustic and program drums. You have to adapt. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it's how you approach it. And Michael Elsner, as you always say, how you frame it. And as everybody's echoing here, how you apply it to your uses. Now, I'll give you my last thought. I was in the studio, I'm developing a band, an artist. Her name is Sierra Miles. She's amazing. Thank you, Brent, by the way, for that connection. And we're in the studio and I'm working with the band and I'm teaching them how to build their playback tracks in Ableton, right? It's very important. And there was one little function that none of us could figure out. And I'm pretty good at Ableton. Pro Tools is like my real area where I know it, like a super pro, but Ableton is my next one where I'm pretty good at it. But there was this one function we couldn't figure out. The drummer goes, hold on. And he types in Chat GPT. How do you do XYZ in Ableton? And within 2 seconds or less, the answer was there. And I said, now, couldn't we have just done that on Google as well? He goes, yeah, you can run it on a search engine, but you're going to get a shit ton of information. You're going to have to click each one and kind of scour through it. Whereas Chat GPT gave us one answer, we did exactly what it said and it worked. Now, Chat GPT did not build the playback tracks for us. We leveraged its knowledge base to our advantage.
Can I chime in just for a second?
Of course.
May I?
Yeah.
Okay. In short, I kind of equate AI, AI just coming into view. I sort of equate that with the MP3. When the MP3 happened, the entire industry said, oh my God, our model is broke. How do we make money? What they did, the industry, is they adapted finally, but it took so long to get to the solution because there were so many people fighting what was inevitable. So I think the smart people are going to go, yep, AI is going to be here. It's not going away. How do we adapt? And we adapt quickly. And so that's kind of my 2 cents right there. I'll shut up.
Can I just expand on that for one quick second? When the drum machine entered the building, was when hip hop music started to take off. That's when the world shifted from the 60s, 70s rock era, even the hair band era, later. And that became part of culture, and it worked into culture. Everything that happens in this world eventually works into culture and our DNA, and we make it work, right? The cream rises to the top. Sometimes it changes the whole face of music, right? Right now, you have to always consider the fact that we are all musicians and we are passionate about music. People that listen to music are passionate about music, but in a different way. Not as an art form, not as a ninja, right? Not as a tradesperson. They are interested in the entertainment and the emotional impact that it gives them. In many cases, they don't necessarily care how it was made, right? So this conversation that we're having about AI should really be about how can you keep whatever you're doing authentic no matter what you're using. If you can't do that, you're not making music that people are going to feel, right? And if there's AI in this new world that we live in, which by the way, just very quickly, the entire music industry, it has changed because technology got involved. And guess what technology wants? To make money. So the reason they're feeding you 3-second bites on TikTok is because they make more money than giving you a full song. That changed the way music is. Now we have meandering music that doesn't go from verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, which is really a song format. You have snippets, TikTok bites, 3 seconds, goes to another 3-second bite, goes to another 3-second bite. Everything evolves. So if you're not evolving with AI, you're going to get left behind, and you're going to be in a very niche community of people that don't want something new. So just know that you're limiting your market if you limit yourself from AI. And it's hard because we really like what we like. Back to you, Michael.
No, I mean, all great information. When if I can give my 2 cents in, when I think of AI, I think of it from like the recipient's perspective, right? The listener's perspective. And so it always boils down to what is the result. But at the same point, I believe that people as individuals, like what you were talking about, Nomad, that spirit, right? When we listen to something, we know whether it's true or fake. Like you feel it, you know what I mean? And I think that, look, who here, just a show of hands, we all know that airplanes can land themselves, right? Airplanes can take off and land themselves. Who here wants to get into an airplane tomorrow, fly from New York to California with no pilots? Raise your hand. I see no hands, right? Okay, no one, right? We all know cars. I rented a car recently where like it drove itself. It was amazing. All I did was had to keep my hands barely touching the steering wheel, and it completely drove itself. I mean, it was wild. I experienced that a couple of years before, but this just in the last like 2 years was unbelievable, the change. Who wants to get into a car going down the road at 70 miles an hour with no steering wheel, no gas, and no brake pedal? Here's the thing. Here's my question to you. Who wants to watch a movie that was created entirely by AI? Characters, dialogue, animation. Who wants to watch a film completely created by AI? Okay, so I saw one hand go up. Very few people, right? And I feel like it's going to be the same thing with music. I think the reality is as powerful as AI is for all of these things that we have, technology-wise, flying, driving, film creation, script writing, book writing, music creation, etc. As powerful as it is, I truly believe that people are not going to want to consume it. So,
The human spirit.
Also, if you think about the chain of it, right? Like you consume music and then you build an audience from the music. And then a lot of that audience is going to want to go see that music live. Then what happens? Are we going to then be faced with like here in the UK, we have this whole ABBA thing where they've rebuilt ABBA, and it's just like, it's like holograms, right? And I think that's only going to be exciting for so long. And then people are they're kind of be over like seeing a hologram.
Right.
And it's like, so how, like, where does that AI music go? Like, if you're creating an artist based off of AI, and we did this when we were at it was Columbia Records, and I worked on this artist, and they were a faceless artist. It was like produced, and we put them out. And they were called like Campsite Dream. I don't know if you guys ever came across them. But it never like evolved beyond like a few certain hits that did well on streaming. It was a way to make the label money quickly, but it was a faceless artist, and you can't grow that live. Like, it just exists in its own little world. So that's what I think about, like how far do you consume AI?
It's like the virtual reality goggles when you jump in,
Yeah.
It's
I just want to say one quick thing. I'm not so concerned with replacing, the amazing artists of the world with AI. I'm concerned about the utility music, right? Like Michael and I put music in film and television all day long. Well, what about that? Because nobody's paying attention to that for the most part, unless it's a featured play. So that's 98% of all music placed in television. So what
actually is, you're actually right. The PMA did a study on that they released last September. It's tremendous how much of that is. But Dylan, the flip side of that is the counter argument, and just as a counter argument, is what happened. That's kind of the same fear of like when loops came out, right? And like what do they call them? The packs. Pardon me.
Sample packs,
yeah, where it's like you get the drum loop and you get the bass loop and you get the guitar loop and the entire sample pack that you can just, people did that, right, with GarageBand. Remember when GarageBand came out, you could just literally grab those loops from those companies, stack them all together, and it's very obvious, as when you check out different libraries and different music that's out there, it's very obvious when people are just grabbing loops and throwing them together and stacking them together and calling it a song. And again, as you say, this is my belief, when it comes to the music editor who's pulling in those tracks, grabbing them from, some library that they have a source audio account with, and they're pulling them in. Is that editor pulling in just loop, just these generic tracks, or are they really trying to craft a story musically speaking? And I guess I haven't heard anything yet that's completely AI generated that makes me believe it was truly, as Nomad says, of the human spirit.
Yeah, but again, the problem is that, look, there's no right answer.
Right.
Right. I mean, somebody could say the greatest music in the world is the Grateful Dead. Somebody else could say it's Drake. Somebody else could say it's, Mozart. There's no right answer because everybody has their own tastes and they have their own, thing they're into. When it comes to money and it comes to the industry, there's an inherent problem with, being able to, it took me 10 years to create 10,000 songs with my team to put in film and TV, right? You could do 10,000 songs with AI in a week. Okay, so then what does that mean? There's one, jackass in Oklahoma making all my money? No, I'm not okay with that. So here's what I've been proposing to BMI and different people that I've been consulting with is it's fine if you allow that through the gates, we should at least know it, right? You should at least know what music production companies, are enhancing what they're doing with AI or using AI. Let's have a filter where if you're putting out a record and it's AI generated, there's a stamp on it, just like the explicit lyrics,
That's
so we know.
Yeah.
I mean, let's know who's doing it and who isn't. And in this industry, it's a small industry. And I'll let you know if extreme music's using AI. I'll let you know tomorrow. I'll let everybody, because that's what I'm out here doing is let's pull the veil back on the industry. Let's keep each other accountable and let's do the right thing, because in the end of the day, we're all people with families and stuff to do. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Absolutely. Can I add real quick to Dylan?
Of course, you don't have to ask me permission. You can just keep talking.
Well, Dylan is very much like Brent and even you, Michael, where I consider you guys like the mayors. Like, you guys have a really natural ability to connect people, especially Brent and Dylan. Like, you guys just fucking know everybody. So It took Dylan and Brent many years to develop that Rolodex, as we call it. Back in the day, it used to be a Rolodex. It flips. Anyway, everybody over 30 knows what I'm talking about. But those relationships, that CRM, that database, that contacts, it took them a long time. It took me a long time to get really good at guitar. It took Michael Elsner a really long time to get good at guitar. It took Dylan a really long time to get good at composing and building a catalog of, all these 10,000 cues, right? Again, I'm going back to the learning curve and development. So when Dylan goes to somebody at BMI, the chances of him, first of all, getting his foot in the door are very high, and of them actually listening are very high. When Brent goes to somebody at Ticketmaster or AEG or whatever it is, again, they're going to have a high rate of actually landing, ears, listen to. That's what we're dealing with the SAG-AFTRA strike with actors right now. However, my point is, if you're a lifer, then just fucking do what you want to do for life. Don't always focus on the money. Yes, be aware of everything. But do I watch CNN and Fox News and MSNBC every day? No, because if I did, I would be a hot wreck. I would be a nervous pile of energy. I just focus on what I'm doing. Be really good at what you do. That's my point with Brent and Dylan, knowing people. They're so good at it. They're so good at that and the other things that they do. It doesn't even matter. All that shit is in the periphery. As long as you have your blinders on and you're hustling, people are going to notice. If you're the most badass composer, AI can't replace you. It can enhance you if you know how to use it.
So let's time out on AI. So I don't want to just turn this into an AI event. I agree with you. I think that was a great way to end it, Nomad. Focus on you. Don't worry about all the other stuff. Do what you love. There's a lot of validity to that. So I'm going to throw this one to Atlanta. I have a couple of very specific questions, so I'm going to read them because I wrote them out before we started. This kind of piggybacks on what you were just talking about, Nomad. So Atlanta, this is for you. So building a strong network and establishing connections in the music industry obviously is, I mean, it's so essential. It's such a, plays such a significant role, right? And especially in an artist's success. So what strategies or tips do you recommend for artists who want to expand their network and connect with industry professionals, influencers, and collaborators? And part two, are there any specific social media platforms or events that artists should consider leveraging for these networking opportunities?
Okay, yeah, this is an interesting one. So I think first of all, you got to remember the music industry is based on people and relationships. And something I experience often is a lot of outreach from artists, and it's very, very transactional. So it's very kind of one-sided, and it feels like a lot of the time an artist hasn't done a lot of research on who that individual is that they're reaching out to. And a lot of artist managers, a lot of my colleagues, we all talk about this. We will get emails every single day. We'll get DMs on our personal Instagrams. Hey, can you manage me? I need a manager. I'm the next best thing. And I always say, like, you know what? The best thing an artist can do for any kind of help, any building a team, any networking is really, like, again, kind of a little bit what Nomad was just saying, but like focusing on your shit and doing that so well and building your own leverage and having the leverage in place that attracts the right people to your project. And that is the absolute ideal, because then you just retain all the bargaining power to enable you to negotiate a higher deal for your own management team or your label. But when it comes to actually networking, what I've found is, like, you're building relationships, and you have to think long game all the time with building relationships. And I think there's so many, not just musicians, those within the industry, and it just feels like everyone's competing against each other and it's a race against time. And especially when I go to networking events, it just feels very like, okay, speed dating. We got to, where it's literally, I walk into the room and people are like sniffing out those who work at TikTok or those that work at Spotify. And if you're not them, it's like, okay, we don't care. Whereas I like to go in a room, and it's just like, I like to go to the bar, spend a little time, get another drink, and none of the conversations I have are going in and it's transactional. It's not a case of like, what do you do? It's very much just having a chat with people. We might exchange numbers, but no transactional outcome as my first cold meeting with anyone ever. And I found personally that's always done me so many more favors in the long run than going in and just being like, who are you? What do you do? Like, this is people's base industry. And I can see it on the other side when people come to me and I'm in a networking event and people the energy is very much like just take. So the short of it is the bare minimum basics that I do now is just constantly remember people by name, like especially in a conversation, I'll mention their name all the time. And then the next thing is I just angle every single conversation back at them to make them feel like they're getting something off of me rather than me wanting something from them. Even if I do want something from them, I'm always making the energy balanced. Mm-hmm. And that has just changed it for me so much more than keeping it one-sided and keeping almost the flow of a conversation one-sided and like I need to take. I'm always like, give. And I apply that to everything I do. I do that with how I build my community, my audience online. I give every time I need something from the audience, but I do that in real life when I'm building relationships all the time. Yeah. It's an energy balance, isn't it? We're just real people.
Yeah. Well, the thing is there's people who have been in the industry can read someone who comes in with an agenda very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about. People coming into a certain networking event, and the very first thing they say is like, so what do? You immediately pick up on the agenda and that's really, it's a big turnoff, but at the same point, I'll just kind of give a little strategy here real quick. For those who are nervous about networking, you go into a situation. Atlanta, you said something brilliant, which is you repeat that person's name over and over. Right. Well, one, it helps you remember their name, but also just, people's names, when they hear their name, it's a very calming effect. That's like the sweetest sound in the world is someone saying your name. Right. But here's a very simple strategy, a very simple, I forgot what the word is for it, but where it's there's a term for it, and I'm sure one of you guys will remind me what it is. But if you go into a situation, into a networking event, think of the word Ford. That's what they call it. Is it called an acronym?
Yeah.
Okay. So Ford, family. So start the conversation with, so how do you know so-and-so, right? So if I'm at a party and you're there talking with Nomad and I have a chance to chat with them, I'd say, so how do you know Atlanta? Friends and family. F is friends and family, right? So how do you know Atlanta? This and that. As that kind of starts the conversation, we talk about that for maybe a minute, just back and forth. Keep in mind that your very next question is already embedded in the answer of your first one. So if I ask, Nomad how he knows Atlanta, and he says, we used to work together. How did you guys work together? Right? There's your next question, right? So it's F for friends and family. Then you go into occupation. So what do you do, right? And at that point, you've kind of disarmed this. So what do you do? Well, I'm a guitar player. I play for one of our artists. So that's amazing. So O is occupation. R is recreation. We can go into something along the lines of, so listen, I just moved into the area and I've been trying to, do you hike at all? I've been trying to find some really good hiking things or some really cool like camping sites or whatever, just something completely not related to the industry. R is recreation, and D is dreams or future goals, anything like that. So for example, if I'm talking to Nomad and he mentions something about his daughter, I might ask something. So like, where's your daughter going off to school? Like D for dreams, meaning future stuff. Like that's a plan that he has for his daughter going off to college, right? So, and then we cycle back around, FORD, friends and family, occupation, recreation, dreams, future plans, etc. That's how you can network into any situation without having to worry about what your next question is going to be. And always keep in mind, your next question is embedded in their answer. But just a quick little, that's been my tip. And that's coming from someone who is super shy. Nomad, when I met you, I couldn't network for anything. So, networking is something that you develop. And if you really, can practice.
Yeah.
So
even to this day, I don't even like going to networking events, but I understand the importance of going. So I will force myself to go. But I think that's part of it, because even though you may feel like, I really don't want to be put in a room, it's quite a naked feeling. But imagine if you just meet one person who just changes the game for you. And I always tell myself that, and that's why I end up going to so many, and I just blitz all the networking events. But yeah, well, I keep a calendar, actually. I have a separate calendar, and I go through and I have all of the networking events around the world just on my calendar. So I can just keep track of, like, maybe I should just, start planning South by Southwest like now, or what's going on at Great Escape in Brighton next May, or but I do think it is important. It's important to get out there on the ground and put yourself in rooms and shake hands. And I think that's starting to be forgotten about a lot, because especially when I speak to so many musicians, the main thing they want to know is TikTok and social media and what is happening online. And they all seem to be forgetting what is happening offline in the real world. And I'm like, no, guys, this is still so important to get out there and put yourself in a room and meet people, because you never know. Like, and half my networking is happening at the bar at shows, organically. Again, that just goes back to my point of saying, like, it's people's industry. So, get out there, book the ticket, do the conference, do the damn thing.
I'd like to just throw in 2 cents here. A good example, because relationships are so vital and important. And here's one example. Let's say a music supervisor is working on a project, TV show or film, and they need a song for a scene. Being a great music supervisor means you have 100 options for that scene, and maybe whittle down to 20 for that scene. And when it comes to actually choosing the song, in many cases, the music supervisor will go, you know what? This song is by that person with the dog, my same breed. I remember talking to this person. I liked them a lot. That's the difference. They will go for your song that is of equal value and station as others. But the key difference is they like you.
Yeah. And
that can make all the difference in the world. So networking and creating relationships is vital, so vital. And I can never, ever stress that enough. And that's why I create the events that I create and how they're structured, so that these magic things and lifelong relationships can happen. So, all right. That's my 2 cents.
That's great. I love it. Great 2 cents. Big applause for Brent.
Yes, Brent.
It wasn't for Brent.
And actually, Brent is, like I said, he's the master at this. That's why we're all here today. By the way, folks, if anybody doesn't know, Brent Harvey is the reason why we're all here. Why he put this wonderful team together and these award shows, etc. So yeah.
Dylan, let's go over to you for a moment. Let's chat about entrepreneurship, because that is something. Pardon?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding.
Entrepreneurial mindset is so important. Listen, when we're all releasing music, what are we doing? We are creating a product, right? Yeah. We're creating a product, and we basically, just by that very nature of creating a product and putting it out there, whether it's a song or an album or putting together a tour and going out and, bringing the show to the audience, we're entrepreneurs, right? We're musicians, but we're entrepreneurs. So my question to you is, are there any specific habits or practices that you recommend for musicians who want to foster an entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah. The most important thing is you almost have to reverse engineer it. Everybody starts with money. How do I make money? Money is a result, right? Before you make money, you have to understand why you want to do something that makes money. Why am I trying to make music, right? Am I trying to make music because I want to put 1 million songs in the backgrounds of television shows? That wasn't my why. You know what I mean? That's what ended up happening and doing other stuff. But my why was I want to work in the creative field, because every day that brings me the most joy. I like helping people. I like being creative. I'm a creative director at heart. So my why is like, okay, if I'm going to do something, it has to tick that box first. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it well, right? And then you go, okay, how do I build a business around the box that I want to tick? Well, I need to build a community, because without community, like you guys said, you've got to build two communities. One is relationships with people that are buying, and relationships with people that can help you scale, create your creative content to get income coming in, right? For me, that wasn't enough. I also wanted to be an advocate for the arts. And so I started radio shows and all this other stuff. And through that business that I built, I used my why to create a marketing stream, SoundCloud radio, all of these things reach the community I wanted to reach, both on the company side and the creator side, to market content that I could license to media companies, right? So if you figure out that, and I'm giving that as an example of how I deconstructed where my heart was, so that when I wake up in the morning, I'm happy to do what I'm doing. And I didn't just chase the money. Then you can create a business based off of that if you're smart and you sit down and you detail it out in such a way where, okay, now I've got actionable steps that reach to my goal. And my goal essentially is why I'm doing this. It's not, I want to make as much money as I can. If that's your goal, go into freaking real estate or something. You know what I mean? Go crack the code on being a financial person or working in a bank. That's fine. Me, I'm a go for broke guy. It's like I want to do it if because my heart's behind it, and if I fail and I'm living in the back of my truck, which I've done before a couple times, so be it. I'm gonna be happy as hell in the back of that truck, waiting for my next project. So if you identify that first and you get away from the fact that money is not the driver, money is the result. Right? Wanting to make a bunch of, if you're making music to make a bunch of money, you're making music someone else made who made a bunch of money, and you're ripping them off and you're trying to be like them. That's not authentic. Without authenticity, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Nobody will listen to you if you're not authentic, So anyway, that didn't really answer your question, but it felt good saying all that stuff.
It's fantastic. I have one more question for Nomad, and then we're going to open it up to the questions in the chat. Hopefully this has been informative and has gotten a lot of you guys thinking. But Nomad, I have to, my question for you is, this kind of follows what Dylan just said about the entrepreneurial mindset. I know that you talk about 3 pillars of having a career as a musician, right? It's the gig, it's the business, and recording, the product, right? So let's hear you chat more about that.
Yeah, thank you. So basically how I formulated my entire career was these 3 pillars, but I always had a business mind, like you and Dylan were talking about, the entrepreneurial spirit. My parents were entrepreneurs, so I always did business first. I would always ask the questions: how many here has been called for a gig or a session or some type of work in the music business by someone, and they never tell you what it pays? How many here have experienced that? That's the worst feeling. You're like, oh, okay. And they're excited and they tell you all these details and stuff. And then also, okay, all right, I guess I'll see you tomorrow at the studio. And then you feel awkward, right? You're like, I was always the one who said, okay, great. This sounds good. What is your budget? And what are you planning to pay me? Oh, well, okay. Number 1, do business first. If they're not willing to do business, then they're not worth doing business with, period. Strike them off your list. If they come up with some BS excuse as to why they can't discuss your payment, then cross them off. Call a plumber to fix your toilet and tell them, oh, I don't know if I can, how much I'm going to be able to. No, this is the price. This is what it is. You want it, you get it. If not, so do business first. That's the first pillar. Gigs. You got to get out there and network to get gigs. So do as many gigs as you can. And here's where it's going to get a little weird, because I did say do business first, but in the beginning, you have to do gigs for free. Just get out there, bring your axe, bring your vocal chops, bring whatever it is. Go to the studio with your MPC. I don't care what it is. Collaborate and just do as many gigs. Take as many opportunities as you can to build up, okay? You got to build up your validation in the industry as a pro. And then the studio, same thing. The studio is the product. You're going to record that product, and then you have to capture it, and then you have to do all the stuff. You have to mix it and master it, and that's where you, okay? So these 3 pillars, that's how you make a living. Do business first, get as many gigs as you can, go in the studio and do it right. But the key to all of this, to echo what Dylan, Atlanta, Brent, and Michael are saying, is networking. Now, I used to be very shy, but I came out of my shell early on when I lived in Miami. I got a gig at a nightclub. Wow. In Miami in the 90s. I'll leave that there. Okay. Just imagine. So I came out of my shell real fast. What I learned though, is our net worth is in direct proportion to our network. Okay. So what you're worth at the end of the day is in direct proportion as to how many relationships, not only that you have, but that you've cultivated. Now, to circle back to what Dylan said, don't get in it for the money, but just know this in the back of your mind. The more people you connect with on a sincere level, the more opportunities will come your way. Like Atlanta said, don't be transactional. Hey, I'm here. I'm a country artist. I do this, and I got a million subscribers on Spotify and a million on TikTok. I don't give a shit about any of that. I don't even, and I made 6 figures. I don't care, bro. Chill. Have a drink. Relax. Let's talk. Let's be human. And that's what AI can't do.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Well, let's open it up for questions from you guys. And by the way, in about 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes, I'm going to pop up a slide where you guys can take a photo of it with your phone, and it's got a little QR code. You're going to get some freebies from all of us for hanging out the whole time. So if you have a question, just put a Q at the beginning. And if it's for someone, just put our name on it, Q for whoever it would be, and then we can direct it to that person. But the first one that I see is from Ian. It's do music supervisors actually check their submission forms on their websites? And if they have their manager's email on their site but says do not send music to them, does it really mean not to try and get music to the supervisor through their manager? So you have to understand what a supervisor's job is. We'll hit on this really quickly. Their job is to clear the rights for the songs, right? And this is the mistake that a lot of independent musicians make when they try and get their songs to supervisors. And it's the reason why they never hear back, because they approach it the same way they approach the traditional music industry. They finish their song and then they send it out and they expect the supervisor to know what to do with it. When someone's clearing the rights to the song, they have to clear the sync rights, which are owned and controlled by the publisher or publishers. They have to control the master rights, which is owned and controlled by whoever owns the master. So that's the very first part of it. It's a legal agreement. A lot of independent musicians do not understand the legalities of their song. The other issue here is that, especially now with a lot of other types of loops and people going online and grabbing a drum groove that someone posted somewhere online, they might be grabbing the drum groove from Michael Jackson's Beat It and then building their track over it, which they actually don't have the rights to. And now you have an infringement in the master. This is one of the reasons why a lot of supervisors no longer work directly with independent musicians. They'll go through agents or libraries because they're legally on the line, right? It'd be like selling your home but not having the deed. You know, you can't sell your home if you don't control the deed for it. So there's that aspect to it. So a lot of musicians, a lot of supervisors tend to be very hands off now on dealing directly with musicians. They usually want it to go through someone else who can vet the music, who can vet the ownership for it. In addition, there's other types of insurance that these other individuals have, errors and omissions insurance, these libraries and these sync agents. So again, like this can turn into a big legal issue if you're misrepresenting your song. So I can't speak for every supervisor. What I can tell you is that when you come to the table with goods, with metadata, with all your various alternate versions and stems ready to go, you're presenting yourself in an entirely different way than an independent musician. You're immediately elevated to the more professional status. The doors will open. If you just show up and send your song, the doors will stay closed. And this is the analogy I always give. If it's Super Bowl Sunday and you moved into a town, you don't know anyone, and you want to go meet some people at a Super Bowl party, you have two options. Your first option is to go find a house with a bunch of cars out front. Knock on the door, the homeowner answers, and you go, "Hi, I see you're having a party. I'd like to come in." Well, what you're really saying is, "Hi, I don't know you, don't really care. I just want to come in and I want to eat your food and use your bathroom." The door's going to close quickly. That's the musician who finishes their song and blasts it out to supervisors. That's why the doors stay closed. The second option is to go down to the market, get yourself a veggie tray, get yourself some wings, show up with some soda and whatever else you want to show up, some chips. You knock on the door, you probably got to kick it because you got your hands full. The homeowner answers and you say, hey, listen, I was down at the market. I saw you having a party and I figured you guys might like some wings and some, ribs and barbecue and all this other stuff. And what happens? You get invited into the party because you showed up with the goods. And that's the difference. When you show up to a supervisor's inbox, knowing the business, understanding sync rights, understanding what you actually own and control with your deliverables, with your metadata, the door's open. So it's all about the presentation. That's the very short answer to that. All right, let's go to the next question. If any of you guys see a question you want to answer, please just jump in. It doesn't have to, I don't have to read them down. Mary Ann says, how important is money in this industry? How do you get to the opportunities and what should be the focus? Anyone?
What? I'm sorry. What was the question?
The question was, how important is money in this industry? How do you get to the opportunities and what should be the focus?
Well, I mean, yeah. So how to get to the opportunities is the biggest question. Of course, everyone loves money, yeah, money's a good thing. What should be the focus? I think the focus is always, as Nomad said, be as good as you can be. It's like Robin Williams said, be so good they can't ignore you, right? That's always number one. Be prepared, which is what Elsner said. Have all your ducks in a row. When you're prepared, then an opportunity presents itself. Then you're not scrambling and looking bad. Those are the two things. Also, know your industry. If you don't really know, it's good that you listen to people that do, or you go and study it online or type it into chat and they'll tell you something. So understand the industry, understand how it works, understand the need and the want of the buyer. And the need and the want of the buyer, as everyone on this thing said, is not that you've worked with their competitors and you've made a bunch of money. It's that they need exactly what they need. And if you have it, great, let's do it, right? By the way, I want to shout out Wendy down there. Hi, Wendy Griffiths. She is a sync legend as well, by the way, for the record.
Thanks, Wendy, for participating in our August 16th panel and presentation. So thank you.
Yeah, so she's a total badass and can tell you a thing or two about licensing. So just being prepared, knowing your industry and being professional, and it's not about you, it's about what you can provide to them. If you can help them, then there may be an opportunity. If not, then you're just another person that wants something from another human that has no personal connection with you. So lead with personal connection.
Can I actually follow that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
The way I want to follow that is, it's a service industry. This is a service industry, folks. As musicians, it's easy to get the big ego and, look at how amazing I am. I'm on stage. Come worship me. Look, when you're on stage and you're playing a gig, this is one thing I wish I knew when I was younger, when I was doing the band thing in my 20s. I think it would have completely changed the game for all of us. We had those egos, right? So it was come watch us, come listen to our amazing songs. It wasn't how can we put on the best performance? How can we be the best service for these folks? It wasn't until I was in my 30s and I moved to Los Angeles and I started playing on sessions for composers. And I started watching how they were working with the entire team on those shows. They were a service. We would work on stuff one day. I'd come back the next day. They'd be like, we have to redo like half of it. The director didn't like it. And they didn't argue about it. They didn't fight about it. That's not what the director had in mind. Okay, let's just redo it. And that, when I started looking at a lot of these composers, and Nomad has worked with some of the biggest ones on the planet, it's that mindset of, how can I serve the people that I'm working for? And I saw a bunch of licensing questions come up. I just want to hit on them real quick. And this kind of follows what Dylan said. Licensing is an entirely different industry than the traditional music industry. People who work on TV shows work in the TV industry. People who work on films work in the film industry. Supervisors, music editors, re-recording mixers, they're all part of that team. They need deliverables sent to them they need an entirely different set of deliverables than what we're used to when we finish a record and we send it out, right? But ultimately, we have to keep in mind as musicians, our role is to serve the music supervisor, because the music supervisor's role is to serve the director or the producer or the showrunner or whoever they're working for. If they're going to take that song, they're going to hand it off to the music editor. The music editor is going to do their thing. They're going to hand those deliverables off to the re-recording mixer. Everyone is serving the next person in the chain. So when we look at what we do as a service, whether we're serving people in the licensing world, whether we're serving listeners who are listening to our music in their car, or whether we're serving an audience who comes to see us play. It's a service mindset. And we can serve people at the highest level, just like any business, they will come back to you, right? But when you make that mindset shift and you actually apply that, I can tell you from personal experience, that's when all the doors and opportunities started opening for me. It was that one mindset shift from getting rid of the ego to actually opening up the doors and being a service. Starts there.
I'm going to comment on the money question and be done with it. If you were a young person, just graduated high school, and you're thinking about taking college, and you go, should I become a business major? No, let me be a philosophy major. No, not philosophy. You know what? I think I'll be a music maker as my career. Yeah, that's the career I'll take. Your motivation for becoming a music artist, you can forget it. If your motivation of making music is to fulfill your soul, then all the other stuff that comes along with possibly making a living from it will follow.
Yes.
But if your motivation going into the business is to be a successful money-making artist, pop star, you can forget about it. So the motivation of why you're in this world, why you're a musician, should first and foremost be something to fulfill your soul and hopefully fulfill others' souls. Yeah. So just, I was thinking, well, that's pretty damn obvious, but every time I think something is obvious, it really isn't, because there's people out there that really need to know. So just keep that in mind. You're making music for enjoyment and to fulfill yourself. And then let's see how we can make money from it. If I never make money from it, great, because I'm still fulfilling my soul. It makes sense?
Spot on, Brent.
Okay.
Authenticity, man. I mean, if you were to walk into a room and meet somebody and not be authentic, how are they going to receive you? And I think people tend to think that this is the Wizard of Oz over here and everything's this magical thing. It's not. Yesterday was an amazing day. I interviewed 7 of the legendary boxers, from Roy Jones Jr., Riddick Bowe. I'm sitting looking at these absolute assassins in their face. And we're talking about our families. We're talking about, oh man, it was a lot of work. And man, when that guy hit me that last time, I thought, and I'm going, yeah, that guy was Mike Tyson, Rose talking to Riddick Bowe, it's like, and they're just people being authentic to themselves, and they worked really hard for what they got. And that really is the key to success. If you think you can fake it, if you think you can go light, you think you cannot do the work and put in the time like Nomad did playing the guitar, then you don't get to play with Stevie Wonder. Because someone else right there who is authentic, who loves what they do, that learned how to do it at that level, gets the gig. So another thing I'll say, because I know a lot of people on here from all over the world. I see people from Portugal and South America, and most of you are thinking, well, how nice for all you Hollywooders that you have all these relationships. They're easy to find because everything's digitized, and music supervisors have Instagrams, and quite honestly, they're unsung in their art form. You might have 3,000 followers on there. They'll see the DM. So get familiar with their work. Get familiar with, Nomad's work. Hit them. I bet you get a response. So
hey, listen, if you have if you have a dream of doing this, somebody just said, don't quit your day job until you have a real income stream developed. And that takes a while, and it takes some of the right moves. You could talk to all of us. All of us offer coaching and mentoring programs, and we have resources and all that shit. But look, do not quit your day job and say, oh, well, the guys everybody said I can do it. I could just be real and pursue my dreams. Yeah, pursue your dreams while you're also being pragmatic. I always say you're either a lifer or you're not. I'm in this for life. These guys are in this for life. We do this for life. There's no other plan. There is no plan B. We're lifers. But don't quit your job until you get that income stream sussed out.
And I'll say one more thing, and nobody ever told me this when I was younger, and I screwed it up 8 ways to Sunday. have a plan. Nomad said earlier, you know, talk about business first, be ready, be prepared, do gigs for free to get in the door. Okay, that's great, but also have a plan that says if these one of these three boxes is not ticked, it's a no, right? Do I advance my relationships by doing this gig for free? If it's a no, don't do the gig. You know, if you're going to take a lesser fee, then is this something I can market to get a higher fee later? I did the Oscars music, right? I got paid $500 to do the freaking open for the Oscars with Noah Lifshay, right? It was the fucking Oscars, right? That got me a lot of work after I did it. So I took it, you know? So you have to accept, you have to make things tangible. This isn't the Wizard of Oz. It's not a mystery. Write it down. If it doesn't tick the box, if you see somebody who's not being transparent, guess what? They're not being transparent. Not just because they're in the music industry and have some sort of affluence that it's okay that they're not transparent. No, it's not okay. They're not being transparent. So your instincts are correct. Something's off. So anyway, I think it's important to make things tangible. I make mind bubbles. I do all that stuff. I'll write it on a napkin. I don't care. I'll be in the middle of a meeting. I'll write it on the napkin to make sense of it. I'm quirky as hell, but still, you know, you do what you do and do it how you do it and do it authentically and don't be afraid of criticism and you can do anything. That's my opinion.
That's why you're Dylan motherfucking Berry.
Oh, fucking right, baby. Vegas. No, I'm just kidding. I'm out here fronting, man. I'm dealing with sports people. I don't know anything about sports.
Yeah,
Well, hey guys, since y'all are hanging out still, I'm gonna share this link with you all. We have some really, really cool stuff that you guys can download. If you have your phone on, you just grab yourself a photo of that. It'll take you right to the page. If you don't, you can just go to elitemusiccoaching.com/HIMA, all capital letters. I'll leave that up for a little bit, but there's a kind of a treasure trove of some good resources that all four of us have dropped in there for you across various different spectrums of the industry for you.
Indeedy.
And while this is up, I can't see any questions. So if anyone wants to answer another question that came up, I just can't read it.
I'll read them out for you, Michael.
Oh, fantastic.
I don't know if you referenced the dog. I was transferring everything over to the dog, but I figured we were just reading them out from the chat.
I was reading them from the chat. Yeah.
Should we all put our social media handles in here in case everybody wants to connect and do that thing? And then also, Brent, you should mention the show coming up, the HIMAs, right?
Is there a show coming up?
I'm surprised you're still on the call right now, to be honest with you. You need to get back to work.
Yeah, the Hollywood Independent Music Awards taking place August 17th. It's going to be a great show. I'm very excited about this. The independent music artists are going to have the spotlight on them that they deserve. The Hollywood Music and Media Awards blew up in a good way to the point where we couldn't service the indie music community properly. I knew this day would come, so that's why we're doing the Hollywood Independent Music Awards. Same level of production, same level of credibility. And I've been so blessed to have so many talented people under the HIMA umbrella. There's only 4 of them here. There's many more. But we're here, again, to reference what Michael said, we're here to service, okay? We're here to provide as many opportunities and cracks in the door as possible. I call myself a doorman because I open up the door.
That's what we call you too, Brent.
I know, and janitor and all that. But it's the artist that needs to walk through. So this is one such event that touches music artists around the world. The in-person events that are coming up, like you can read in the chat, the production to placement pro panel and presentation. Michael will be there and he'll do a whole presentation on how to get your music licensed and everything. But the first part of the panel will be what is broadcast quality music, because you need that before you go over here. So the panel will dive into both of these topics to make you more aware and have the tools moving forward. Okay, I'll shut up.
If I may add one thing, I did see a comment made that somebody thought that production and placement, our event happening the night before the main awards event, was just for producers. This event is not just for producers. I think all artists, if you want to get your music synced, this event is going to give you a wealth of information to take the steps to do that.
Hey, can I say something about all the free stuff that we're giving away?
Please.
So we are giving away these free resources that we collected individually because we each have our own area of expertise within the industry, and we really want to help. It's a passion of mine to teach anyone who wants to learn how to be a successful career musician, achieve their goals. But let me just say something about receiving free stuff. I love free stuff, but here's the problem. You can get all the free stuff you want. If you don't actually hunker down and do the work, study, write out your goals, put a plan of attack together. I call it a POA. You got to hit that shit every day. You want to get muscles? You got to work out every day, or at least 3, 4, 5 days a week. You want to be successful in whichever career you choose, then you have to put in the work. There's no substitute.
Yep.
Amen.
One more shameless plug. So we launched radio pods for a few of the guys here on the show. Nomad's got his own radio show on Dash Radio. The HIMA's has one. It's on Smash House Radio on Dash. And you can check on the HIMA website and social media, and Nomad's social media and my social media, which is, I put it on there. And yeah, and we're accepting music submissions from independent artists. The whole station is 24/7 independent music. So it's pretty cool.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, are we going to some other questions that we
I don't see any other questions. Valerie, if there's other questions that you want to just speak, there's a lot of stuff going up.
There's no other questions, but Nikki has a hand raised. Can guests unmute themselves?
Yes.
Let me go click on you, Nikki. There you go, Nikki.
Hi everyone. My question was about how can I get an invitation to the awards? That's what I didn't know about.
Well, first of all, a slam dunk would be to be a nominee.
Oh, okay.
But if you're not enough, it's open to the public. So Valerie will put the ticket info in the chat group right now. So that's pretty much it right there. Just to expand on the HMA a little bit more, and everybody on this panel except for Atlanta can personally testify to this, is that I actually call the events that I produce opportunities disguised as an award show. Handing out the hardware is not the main thing. It's who's under the same roof at the same time that you will never, ever, ever have a chance to meet. I guarantee. Okay. I hate the name drop, but for example, I just had lunch with Diane Warren. She's happy to come in and present the best song category. There's a lot of support from the industry for the event, but again, this is one of those things that people go to and magic can happen. And that's part of the networking, that's part of the creating relationships, and that's part of participating. So if it's not the award show, we produce other events too that will be of interest to everybody on this Zoom call. So, okay.
Hey, I just saw a question come up from, I think it was Greg, it popped up. Any tips for first-time nominees networking there?
You know what? Michael pretty much hit on that. Again, the relationships that you foster come from personal interaction, and it doesn't mean, hey, you got to listen to my song. Here's a thumb drive. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to, hey, do you like that appetizer was great, right? I mean, these mundane things to create a relationship that's not, that the professional that you meet is not going to go, oh, this person's going to be a pain in my ass. You don't want that.
I'll give you a tip. Brent, I got a good tip for him.
Yeah, go ahead.
Find Nomad or Elsner and say, remember me from the talk? I asked that great question and gave you a great compliment. Can you introduce me to somebody? And we'll turn around and go, yeah, talk to that one. That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
Be cool. DM people, email people. Just be cool. Don't just shove your shit down my throat. Be nice.
Ball game, man. It's
Tip number one, the music artist, when you do a cold contact or you reach out to somebody, never, ever, ever, ever attach a fucking file. Okay? Never. Not even a link. You wait for the response and then you go, oh, okay, thanks. I would love to share one of my songs with you.
And by the way, no mail list unless you ask first. Get in a bunch of mail lists. It's almost insulting because we're going through all these different, business things trying to do work. And then it's like, oh, I got a show on Tuesday. I'm like, yeah, but you live in Tucson. And I don't know you. And that's not to be like egomaniac or anything, but would you read that if you lived in Tucson and somebody from New York kept sending you something you didn't know who they were? No. So yeah, you got to ask for it. Otherwise you get kind of like, flagged as, oh, that person's spamming me.
Well,
I'm gonna go back about 45 minutes about authenticity and AI almost. And I tell this to music artists that I consult with or even interact with. You can have the greatest recording on the planet and sounds great and it's wonderful when you hit play. If you can't bring that in a live show, you got a lot of obstacles. Most artists nowadays on TikTok have no clue what it's like to perform live. That is such an essential aspect of becoming a true music artist. If you can't recreate or pretty much recreate what you recorded in a live setting, you're really not gonna, you've actually limited your possible opportunities out there. And I've been booking music in this town for 40 years. And a lot of artists come to me that want to play and they just are going to be singing to a backing track. And no, I'm sorry, real instruments, please. I'm sorry if I went off on a tangent, kind of off base there, but it's so important to be able to perform live the music that you create as a recording. Okay. All right.
If I can share something real quick, when I think of just my own journey starting in the industry, I moved to Nashville in '98 and I had connected at an event at a conference in San Francisco 2 months prior with an engineer who actually I owned a bunch of records that he'd done, and he sat next to me at a producers panel, and I just started talking to him. And he had Nashville on his badge, and I was moving there in 2 months. So that started the conversation. So you live in Nashville, right? I guess that would be more like the friends and family part of Ford, right? Location. So I moved there and I contacted him and he invited me to go out golfing with him and another engineer friend of his who I ended up becoming his assistant for about 2 or 3 years. And I just, walked around carrying their bags with him. I always feel like the best thing you can start with anything that you're doing when you're trying to network is start with gives. Give, and then an ask. And even in the online space, some of you guys know, I've run an online business for the last 5 years, Nomad, Atlanta as well. And there's a lot of free content that we post. And then, of course, to keep the business running, we have to sell a program or an education. but it always follows the gives, right? There's a lot of free information, lots of videos, lots of blogs, etc., podcasts, etc. Those are the gives. It's give, 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 and then there's the ask. And that to me is the best approach you can follow when it comes to how do I go in a network with people. Don't start with an ask. We don't know you, you know. Start with the gives. And I'll give you an example of this that happened recently, and I'll drop his name because a bunch of us all know him. Brent does as well, because my buddy Adam Gaynor hosted one of the very first HMMA awards. Now, Adam was a founding member of Matchbox 20, was the guitar player, one of the two guitar players. And so I did an event just like this about maybe 4 months ago online. It was just him, myself, and another individual named Rick Barker, who's also part of the HIMA. And we just did a little Q&A like this. Well, there was a girl who was online named Angela. I'd never met her before. And towards the end, she had put together this little Google sheet. She had, allowing people to connect with each other and whatnot, but she took the initiative, right? And she popped it in at the end, and I quickly grabbed her contact, and right when we wrapped up, I just sent her a message. Thank you for taking the initiative. That was really nice of you, right? And she sent me a message back. I think it was an Instagram. And to make a long story short, we hired her as a part-time employee. She's been working with us since then for 4 months now. And it all started because she took one little action, one little give in an event like this, just creating a Google sheet. It's little things like that 99.9% of people don't do, because they come to the table saying, will you do something for me? Will you listen to my songs? Will you do something for me? No, but when you lead with a give, and then another give, and then another give, and another give, people become endeared to you. You become valuable to what they're doing. I spent the first probably 2 months of my career going to studios as an assistant engineer. I moved to Nashville on November 7th. It was a Saturday, 98. By January 1st, 1999, I had already earned my first double platinum album because I hung out in the studio every day doing stuff for free. And I ended up getting to work with a group called Sixpence None the Richer, which ended up giving me my first double platinum award. I did a lot of shit for free for the first month and a half until I started getting paid. And then it all opened up, right? Give, 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 give. The doors will open up, believe me, because most people come to the table saying, do something for me, do something for me, do something for me. And then they wonder why the doors stay closed. So lead with the give, and then lead with another give. Doors will open. If you can follow that and you're not an asshole, you're a good person, you're a good hang, you're a genuine individual, and you have good music, oh my gosh. It's amazing how fast doors will open for you.
Yep.
I gotta go, Michael and Brent.
All right, guys. Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up anyway. We've been here for 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'll post this up here for you guys one more time. For those who came in a little late, you can go grab these resources. For those of you who are going to be in California or Los Angeles area in the middle of August, it would be awesome to have you out at the event on the 16th and the 17th, right? The 16th is the pre-event, and then of course the HIMAs are going to be on the 17th, but the pre-event will be a panel that evening. And I think we got some links going up for that, I hope.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I can't see at the moment. Yeah, is there any way, by the way, Brent, for anyone who cannot appear, for them to be able to take part? Is there anything that's streaming that they can watch, or they have to be there? I'm
going to have somebody just set up a phone on some sticks and stream it. Very simple. Which platform I don't know yet, but
more than likely Instagram, which I will link right now. Give me just a second.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Also, if anybody's in Vegas and wants to come to the Terrence Crawford after party, hit me on a DM and maybe I can get you into it. It's going to be crazy. It'll be mayhem.
Just in closing, but before we close out, again, I'm very blessed to have the team that I have. And I select the people that are in my universe based on the 3 C's. And that's class, character, and credibility. Those are the 3 things that people must have in order for them to be in my universe. And I'm very blessed to have everybody in my universe have those 3 C's. So the more interaction that you have with the, I built the HIMA to be a safe place for music artists out there. There are so many music artists out there that are so desperate to have any kind of success or profile that they will do almost anything. And there are really bad people out there that I call vultures that will happily take your money and not produce any results. I want everybody to know I personally vetted and picked, selected, and asked every single person under the HIMA umbrella to participate because I know that they are all of great character and are the real deal. So if you pursue anybody on our pro team outside of the HIMA, they have my blessing and my stamp of approval because they are the real deal and they will produce results. Now, will they, you know, just by getting together with Michael, does that mean that your song is going to be in the end credits of the next Spider-Man movie? No, but he will give you the tools on how to possibly at least have that opportunity to happen. And like I said, we're going to dive deep into broadcast quality recording and how to get a sync placement at the August 16th event. And everybody has that link now. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, but I'm extremely adamant and almost OCD about the people that I associate myself with. So I just wanted to make that very clear.
Awesome.
Big respect.
Well, guys.
Appreciate you guys for having me on here.
Yes, it's been a good time. Hopefully that you all got something inspiring out of it. You know, if you walk away with one piece of information that you can act on, then it's been a success. But you got to act on it. You know, just sitting and showing up doesn't do much until you actually put it into action. So hopefully that you got something that you can put into action out of this. That's the goal. So with that being said, we will wrap up and we will see you all on the 16th and the 17th.
Thank you so much, everybody. Hang on, everybody. You know what? You guys are serious about your career because you're here right now. That says volumes. Okay. So congrats to you guys. Okay.
Awesome. All right, guys. Have a great rest of the day. We'll see you all a little later. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.